And before I call upon him to join us, allow me to introduce our moderator for the final sessions. He has served 42 years in the commodity sector in various capacities and exposed in the whole value chain of different crop mix that includes oil palm, rubber, cocoa, and processing facilities. Throughout his long career span, he has held various positions, among others as Chief Executive of Malaysian Palm Oil Association, Senior Vice President of Sami Darby Plantation, Chairman of Mechanization and Automation Research Consortium for Oil Palm, and Chairman of the Federal Land Consolidated and Rehabilitation Authority. He has also contributed significantly towards the palm oil industry in his capacity as Deputy President of the Malaysian Agriculture Producers Association, member of the National Labour Advisory Council, board member of Malaysian Palm Oil Board, and member of the Felda Recovery Task Force. It is my immense pleasure to welcome onto the stage Datuk Muhammad Najib Wahab. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, MC, for the introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, and a very good evening. Distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. You know, moderating the last session is going to be a difficult one for me, for the speakers, and especially for you all, to stay focused. But be rest assured that we are saving the best for last. The speakers have promised us that they will keep you abreast and make it interesting. The speakers say, not me. So, because we are running out of time, ladies and gentlemen, I've requested the speakers, the 7 speakers which are going to speak afterwards, to, if possible, they can cut down the speech from 15 to 10 minutes, if possible, right? So, without much further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker, who is also my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Wijaksana Dharma Salkoro, who is also the Director for Sustainability at SVOC. His presentation is titled Global Framework of Principle for Sustainable Palm Oil, or in short, GFP-SPO. The floor is yours, Dr. Wichak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for giving me time so I can introduce Global Framework of Principles for Sustainable Palm Oil, GFP-SPO, that established by CPOPC. But before I continue, I think it's better I briefly give you about CPOPC. CPOPC is, CPOPC is a council of palm oil producing country. Sometimes we call it CPOPC or CPOPC. That's an international intergovernmental organization for palm oil producing countries. It means that the member is not association of everybody, but a government. So this council is established in 2015 by the government of Indonesia and the government of Malaysia. And now we have 4 observer countries, that is Colombia, Honduras, Ghana, and here is PNG. We hope that before the end of next year, we hope that 2 other countries will become member of the CPOPC. So, ladies and gentlemen, talking about CPOPC, everybody asks us about what are you doing in CPOPC and CPOPC. So actually, Oh, next please. Should I do by myself? That's it. So, I can go. Sorry. So, talking about CPOBC, actually the objective is two big main objectives. The first is talking about the oil palm cultivation and industry, and then the second one is long-term benefit of palm industry. So the first one is our objective is to promote, develop, and strengthen the cooperation of the cultivation industry among the member countries. And the second, to ensure the long-term benefit as such oil palm, so the economic development and well-being of the people, especially in the country, can be reached. And asking about what we are doing, actually we have 7 scope and function. The first one, that's promote consultation and development of palm oil industry among stakeholders. So that's the first important one. And the second one is enhance the welfare of oil palm smallholders. So this is already the important one because part of the supply chain of all businesses in palm oil industry. The third, develop and establish a global framework of principle for sustainable palm oil. That's what we are talking about. And then the fourth, promote cooperation in investment in developing sustainable and environmentally friendly oil palm zones. That include green economic zones. And the fourth, I think all presenters talking about address the impediments and opportunities for promoting the palm oil trade. And then the sixth, encourage cooperation and R&D and also training. We will have the big capacity building for the next year. And the seventh, any other activities and function then we need to discuss about. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we this one, I will try to introduce in the global framework, sustainable palm. But actually, for your refreshment, palm oil is the key for economic development in palm oil producing countries. You can see that in Indonesia, palm oil contributed to GDP quite significant. That's about 3.5%, and in Malaysia, 3.6%. And if you can see here that palm oil is an economic prime mover that stimulates agribusiness development from upstream and to downstream. And then also palm oil is a significant job driver. You can see everywhere in Indonesia and in Malaysia and also in Latin America. That's palm oil is the best way to increase the economic development. And then also palm oil is able to produce a commodity highly sought after international and generate significant national revenue. And the fourth, we can see that palm oil as a key for economic development in producing countries in local area development through large global companies that investing in infrastructure. So like that in Indonesia and also in Malaysia, that big companies provide the roads, bridges, and also public facilities such as health facilities, schools, and then also daycares for laborers. Ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about the sustainability scheme, sustainability certification scheme, actually Indonesia and Malaysia have mandatory sustainable certification. So that we call it ISPO and MSPO. That's from one angle, that's a mandatory. Why? Because the ISPO and MSPO comes from the mix from the sustainability needed, and the other is the regulation. That's why they become the mandatory. And both ISPO and MSPO ensure that palm oil can be, oil palm can be cultivated sustainably. So we all understand that world's most consumed edible oil is palm oil. And then the third one that I should mention, that recognition on sustainability of palm oil comes beyond the producers. Actually, not only the producer, but also the other one. So palm oil right now has IPOS, India Palm Oil Sustainability, ISCC, and RSPO that represent consumer and multi-stakeholders perspective. But they actually share the principles with ISPO and MSPO. Later we will see this thing. So let's take a look to the global demand. To feed the growing population, the global demand for vegetable oil continues to increase. So if we see in the right graph in the right, that in 2020, the vegetable oil demand is about 190 million tons. And then another 10 years, the demand is increased to 2,290 million tons. That's very big. So if we start from 2020, that produced about 190 for oil palm, that's actually about 150 years to provide that about for the volume. So if we take a look to the need in 2030, it means that all of vegetable oil should work together to provide the sustainable oil. That's not only palm oil that need to be sustainably, but also other vegetable oil. So Indonesia and Malaysia spearhead that sustainably initiative through ISPO and MSPO that you already know about that. And then under CPOBC, Indonesia and Malaysia developed GFP SPO. That's a common sustainability system based on SDG. So that's very important that all can be based on the SDG. With palm oil as its initial pilot, then can be huge win for the support of sustainable production of vegetable oil. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is, I want to be quick actually. This is the global framework of principle for sustainable palm oil. The proposed principle, we have 7. The first, develop partnership for sustainable development through transparency and collaboration, include other vegetable oils. Include other vegetable oils. And then second, uphold peace, justice, and strong institution through compliance with laws and regulation. And then the third, invest in innovation and technology to drive the adoption of efficient and best management practices. The fourth, minimize the net impact to the environment and ecosystem through the efficient use of natural resources. The fifth, benefit workers and local communities by improving their living conditions and respecting their rights. And then the sixth, that's a very important one, inclusiveness for smallholder and low-income consumers. So, ladies and gentlemen, talking about smallholders, we know that smallholder is part of the supply chain. So the weakness, if the weakness in the smallholder, we need to help them. We need to protect them to be part of all sustainability of supply chain. So I'm a little bit giving information to you that Indonesia has 2.6 million smallholders, and Malaysia has about 650,000 smallholders. So if we calculate them and we relate it to their family, it means that they're related to 16 million people in Indonesia and 2 million people in Malaysia. So again, about smallholder, not only in Indonesia and Malaysia, but also we can see in Asia. And Asia is Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Papua New Guinea, and the smallholder about average 40%, except the Thai. Thailand is about 70%. And then, before I'm talking about the supporting of the SPO, I should mention that in Africa, there are countries in Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, and most of them, the smallholder are more than 70%. And Latin America, smallholders varies between 90% like that in Honduras and 5% in Brazil. Still about smallholder, researchers in Indonesia found that there are two important things for smallholders, the productivity and long-term cooperation, partnership. So that's why I strongly put here in this mention in this GFP SPO. So actually, when we developed the GFP SPO, the global framework, we have 9 annexes. So the first one, we actually make comparison of the framework and alignment to existing certification scheme. So not only we just make it and then do it. No, we have a comparison. And then the second one, we also made the SDG deep dive. So what's actually they need in the SDG? So also how to make the technology possible to make it as part of the sustainability scheme. And then also high-level implementation, business and design, extrapolation toward other vegetable oils. So it means that if we talk about GFP SPO, it means that for now the name is for palm oil, but actually we want to do it to be extrapolated to other vegetable oils. And then again, engagement with smallholders, and then engagement with the UN, and also we provide also a template for countries that need to make their own sustainability scheme. So that's a very important to all of us that not easy, but you know that certification scheme is very unique for every country. So like what I said, that ISPO and MSPO is because based on their regulation and also the need for sustainability platform. Let's probably, I'm sure that's too small for you, but let's take a look at this one. The green boxes are GFP SPO principles that we already established, and then the second row is ISPO, and then the third is MSPO, then RSPO and ICC. So I just want to make the long story short. Let's take a look to the principle 5 of GFP SPO. There are benefit, I'm sure that's very small, benefit workers and local community by improving their living condition and respecting their rights. So let's take a look at ISPO. ISPO, that's aligned with principle number 4, workers, principle number 5, that's social respect, and also principle number 6, community. Let's take a look at MSPO. That's aligned with principle number 4, social responsibility, health, safety, and employee. So again, in RSPO, that's also aligned with principle number 4, respect community and human rights, and also in principle number 6, worker rights. And ICC, that's the 5th of GFP SPO principle, is aligned with ICC, principle number 3, safe work, and principle number 4, not violate human rights. So that's actually, they share the principle here and there. That's because of the uniquely, they put which one is above, which one is below. So this is my final slide. That's a conclusion that CPOPC or CPOPC aspire that GFP SPO will become a benchmark of sustainability for other vegetable oils and provide guidance and reference to new sustainability schemes. And then a common sustainability system based on SDG with palm oil as its initial pilot that can be strong modality in supporting sustainable and productive vegetable oil. And then the third, it will allow for the evaluation of vegetable oils production holistically It means that all vegetable oil producer and consumer need to work together to feed the world with a sustainable oil standard or a similar platform. So then, rather than singling out certain community, country, and company. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Wicak. You spoke longer than 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Longer than that. But however, more importantly, you did showcase the need of for all the available certification standard to align to the 7th principle of the GFP SPO. My next speaker, my good friend, a seasoned planter named Dato' Daud Ahmad Zain. He is also the CEO of the Malaysian Palm Oil Certification Council. And he is here to give his insight on the smallholders' opportunities and social enhancement through the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil, or in short, MSPO. Dato' Daud, you may proceed.
Thank you, Dato' Muhammad Najib. Assalamualaikum, selamat siang, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oil palm does not originate in bumi Indonesia, bumi Malaysia, atau bumi PNG. Betul atau tak betul? If it is not sustainable, I don't think the 150 of us is still in this very lovely room. Correct or not correct? It was the European who helped us develop what we are today. But who are the consuming nation today? None other than India and China. When you combine the three markets, do you think we are still standing here? Because of the vigor, because of the health properties, and because of the versatility, tocotrienol make my knees so strong. I am biologically 67, but with science and chemistry, my hair is still black. And Dato' Najib, who is about my age, is still white. Do you think colors differentiate the belief? No. Science brought palm oil, which is today center of gravity, and in this last paradise of planet Earth, speaking the truth is painful. Agree with me? We are not enemy to European. We are not enemy to America. We are not even enemy to Ukraine and Russia. But science makes us so reachable. As I speak, 7.8 billion human beings is consuming this lovely vegetable oil. Embrace each other. Malaysia is unique, developing, but we are serious. Malaysian Palm Oil Board Act 1998. The custodian Director General is here, Dato' Parvez. Stand up, sir. He's a scientist, but he is also an administrator. He is the custodian and he is also a tax collector. 16 ringgit Malaysia is being taken out of what we produce based on CPO production. And my sister, MPOC, Malaysian Palm Oil Promotion Council, answering my fellow Spanish and Italian. Where is Aisha? Stand up, Aisha. Promotion Council, if she doesn't do her job, please complain to Dato' Parvez. And the double C, Malaysian Palm Oil Certification Council, Daud Ahmad Zain just joined them 3 months ago. But I was trained by the Commonwealth Development Corporation. 46 years ago, I was met in Balong Estate today is owned by my beautiful, sexy CEO. Haji Helmi, stand up, sir. He is in charge of the biggest and leaders in GLC producing palm oil. While we are gathered here, we cannot control the vagaries of nature. Bogor, Gajah Mada, UPM in Malaysia, plus some universities in Thailand, created more scientists, pathologists, agronomists. Why are we being shying away when Europeans said, we want to ban you? That's their right to ban us. It's okay. There are more markets the world over. I am so proud in my slides, evidence that we have exported halal palm oil, MSPO certified, to a country which never crossed our mind, Mongolia. I think Sabah government based in Sarawak, also Bintulu, deserve a clap of hand. It's a public listed company. And I am sure if I examine the Malaysian, they will also fail my question. It's a public listed company based in Miri, exported the product from Bintulu. So why are we still not embracing our market? But being developing nation, imagine if you try to convince the hundreds of million consumers in 27 nations. Alhamdulillah, Malaysia has certain advantage. While the EU group refused to embrace us, we go to United Kingdom. Adiwira, stand up, sir. You are the man in charge of Saim Dabi on Minamas, because he's the brother I studied in Sheffield. If not because of Maggie Me, with consumption and assimilation of palm oil, I don't think he's standing there in Jakarta also. Thank you, Adi. That shows you are strong, you are resilient. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dato' Wahab have reminded me, speak 10 minutes. You cannot transform the consuming market within a time frame of 15 minutes. But what do you think is the magic, the way forward? Is none other than love, love, love. And my concluding statement, ask and thou shalt be given. If you have the willpower to move extra hand, you do only the right thing. Be honest, law-abiding, support the small people. In Malaysia, although 650 smallholder is there, the government provide free help to them. The big boys like Haji Elmi provide the free services also to all the individual, not just in Kuala Lumpur, from police way to Sabah and Sarawak. And that is why, while I speak, I didn't realize that being practical is to assist people who need most. Hence, in a very short period of less than 7 years, MSPO has been a mandatory scheme based on standards, of which we believe the consuming country can absorb and embrace us. Because whether Europe wants to further purchase or even buy our oil, the 7.8 billion, and it's moving fast, will still continue to buy the consuming drop of every sustainable palm oil. With that note, thank you for your attentive attendance looking at me. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shabash to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk Daud Ahmad Zain, for that very inspiring speech. You know, Malaysia is supposed to be having the election very soon. And I think he wants to be a candidate. Anyway, thank you, Datuk Daud, for keeping up with time. Our next speaker is Our third speaker is Bapak Insinyur Baginda Siagian. Bapak Siagian is the Director of Plantation Protection at the Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture. He will give us an overview on how the Indonesian sustainable palm oil certification standards can be strengthened. He will also highlight the issues and challenges, especially on certifying the smallholders in Indonesia. Bapak Siagian, dipersilakan.
Oh ini
Bapak
next
boleh
ya.
pakai wireless atau pakai?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia. Mohon maaf ini saya akan membawakan presentasi ini dalam bahasa Indonesia dan saya tidak bisa sesemangat Mr. Datuk Daud tadi.
Gak apa, Indonesia belum 2 tahun lagi Pak.
Boleh lanjut, Bapak Ibu sekalian, posisi Indonesia di dalam perekonomian dunia dan nasional memang saat ini masih menjadi nomor 1. Nah, ini mohon maaf rekan-rekan dari negara jiran Malaysia, kita masih menjadi negara pengekspor terbesar minyak kelapa sawit dan juga masih terbesar dalam mempunyai lahan kelapa sawit. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, Indonesia saat ini sudah memiliki sekitar 16 juta hektar kelapa sawit dan ini menjadi keuntungan sekaligus menjadi andalan daripada Indonesia ke depan dalam perdagangan kelapa sawit atau minyak kelapa sawit atau CPO. Dan ini banyak di Kalimantan dan terutama di Sumatera. Mungkin kita sudah saling tahu semua, paling besar di Sumatera, kemudian juga di Kalimantan. Selebihnya ada di beberapa pulau di Indonesia yang tersebar meskipun tidak dalam jumlah yang lebih besar. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kalau dilihat dari kepemilikan memang swasta masih terbesar. Itu sekitar 51-52% masih dimiliki oleh swasta, kemudian oleh rakyat itu sekitar 41% dan perkebunan negara itu hanya sekitar 8%. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, ini yang membuat bahwa perhatian besar pemerintah terhadap perkebunan rakyat ini masih menjadi yang utama. Bapak Ibu sekalian bisa dilihat di sana sebaran daripada palm oil kita di mana yang paling besar dan itu menjadi pertimbangan kita di mana harus pengembangan berikutnya. Dan ini menjadi potensi buat kita semuanya. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kalau kita dilihat dari market share terhadap pasar CPO dunia, memang Indonesia masih yang paling besar, itu di atas 50% kira-kira sudah menjadi market share-nya Indonesia. Ini tahun 2020 ya, ini tahun 2020 dan sampai tahun 2020 itu kita sudah melakukan ekspor sekitar 44 juta. Kira-kira tahun 2000 seperti itu posisinya. Kemudian diikuti oleh Malaysia dan Thailand. Ini posisi di tahun 2020 meskipun datanya menjadi 2021. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu sekalian seperti apa posisi strategis daripada kelapa sawit Indonesia terhadap perekonomian. Ini Bapak Ibu sekalian di sini dalam hal penciptaan lapangan kerja ini ada sekitar 12 juta peluang kerja secara tidak langsung bisa diciptakan oleh perkebunan kelapa sawit atau industri kelapa sawit. Dan kemudian itu ada beberapa lain lagi sekitar 4,2 juta orang yang bisa dan sekarang saat ini bekerja di industri kelapa sawit di Indonesia. Kemudian Bapak Ibu sekalian, kontribusinya terhadap devisa kita, ini kontribusi terhadap ekspor non migas kita hampir sekitar ya mungkin 80% dari ekspor non migas kita berasal daripada kelapa sawit. Dan terhadap pertumbuhan ekonomi nasional, sumbangan itu ada sekitar 3,5% terhadap PDB. Nah, ini dan terhadap industri atau energi, kelapa sawit kita juga sudah menyumbang terhadap B30, biodiesel B30, dan saat ini saya pikir sedang proses pengembangan ke B35, B40. Jadi peranan industri kelapa sawit ini menjadi sesuatu yang sangat strategis, yang sangat penting bagi perekonomian Indonesia maupun sumbangannya terhadap pasar internasional. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwa kalau tadi Datuk Daud sudah mengatakan dengan semangatnya seperti itu, ISPO ini juga menjadi hal yang mandatori buat sertifikasi kita untuk kelapa sawit kita. Sama dengan Malaysia mungkin, itu juga mandatori. Kita ada peraturan pemerintah yang sudah harus diikuti untuk ISPO kita ini, dan ini menjadi sesuatu hal yang harus kita sampai nanti di 2025. Dan ini perjalanan panjang sejak 2021 nanti akan kami coba jelaskan ke Bapak Ibu sekalian. Tujuannya, ini ada 3 tujuan daripada sertifikasi ISPO kita ini. Yang pertama adalah memang kita perlu bahwa kita mewujudkan hal yang sustainable ini menjadi salah satu tujuan daripada ISPO kita. Tapi yang paling penting sebenarnya ini adalah nomor 2. Di nomor 2 itu bagaimana keberterimaan, daya terima, dan daya saing daripada produk CPO kita terhadap pasar internasional. Dan yang ketiga ini mendukung terhadap pengurangan gas emisi gas rumah kaca yang ada di sana. Jadi ISPO ini nanti akan kami jelaskan bagaimana dia sesuai dengan SDGs 2030 dan juga sesuai dengan Paris Agreement itu. Jadi menurut kami bahwa ISPO ini sudah sesuai dengan standar-standar internasional yang ada saat ini. Nah, ini sejarahnya mulai dari 2011, dan ini adalah penguatan yang kita lakukan terhadap ISPO 2011 ke 2015, 2015 kemudian sampai ke 2020 munculnya peraturan pemerintah nomor 44 dan kemudian Permentan nomor 38. Nah, ini ada perubahan-perubahan di sana, ada penguatan-penguatan terhadap ISPO kita secara berjenjang dari 2011 sampai 2015 dan 2020. Dan kita juga sudah ada komite terkait dengan ISPO ini, dan ini ISPO-nya dilakukan sesuai dengan peraturan daripada Menteri Koordinator Perekonomian Indonesia. Dan ini kita punya komite yang ada di sana, ada juga sekretariatnya, kemudian ISPO sertifikasinya dilakukan oleh lembaga sertifikasi yang sudah diakreditasi oleh CAN. Jadi ini sudah sangat resmi sekali, dan ini lembaga sertifikasi ini bertanggung jawab terhadap CAN. Nah, kira-kira isu-isu yang kritikal terkait dengan ISPO ini, bagaimana pengembangan ISPO ini menjadi sesuatu yang bisa menjadi lembaga sertifikat atau yang sertifikasi yang dilakukan bisa diakui secara lebih baik nanti di dunia internasional. Kemudian masih berapa menit lagi Pak Dato? Baik, kami percepat. Nah, ini prinsip kriteria dan indikator yang di ISPO, ada 7 tujuh prinsip di sana yang ada di perkebun, dan ada 5 prinsip yang ada di perusahaan, dan ada 5 prinsip yang ada di perkebun. Dan inilah prinsip-prinsip yang harus diikuti atau ditaati di dalam indikator ini. Memang di perusahaan ada 38 indikator sampai 100 sekian indikator yang harus dipenuhi, sedangkan di perkebun itu hanya 5 prinsip dan sekitar 12 kriteria dan sekitar 38 indikator yang harus dipenuhi apabila kita melakukan sertifikasi terhadap ISPO kita. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, bagaimana ISPO mendukung terhadap 12 standar yang ada di SDGs. Nah, ini ada 12 di sana yang menjadi acuan bahwa ISPO itu sudah mendukung terhadap SDGs 2030. Nah, ini ada 12 di sana, mungkin saya tidak bisa menjelaskan satu persatu, tetapi untuk tujuan 1 itu didukung oleh prinsip nomor 1 di dalam ISPO, kemudian pencapaian tujuan ketiga di SDGs itu bisa didukung di prinsip ketiga, kemudian tujuan keempat itu didukung oleh prinsip kelima, kemudian tujuan kelima bisa didukung dengan prinsip keempat di dalam ISPO, kemudian tujuan keenam itu bisa didukung oleh prinsip kedua di dalam ISPO, dan tujuan ketujuh itu bisa didukung oleh prinsip kedelapan di dalam ISPO, kemudian di tujuan kedelapan bisa didukung oleh prinsip pertama, kedua, keempat, dan kelima di dalam ISPO, dan kemudian tujuan ke-10 SDGs bisa didukung oleh prinsip keempat, keenam daripada ISPO, dan tujuan ke-12 SDGs itu didukung oleh prinsip 2 dan 3 daripada ISPO, kemudian tujuan ke-13 daripada SDGs itu bisa didukung oleh prinsip kedua dan ketiga daripada ISPO, kemudian tujuan ke-15 itu akan didukung oleh prinsip nomor 2 dan nomor 3 di dalam ISPO, dan tujuan ke-16 itu akan didukung oleh prinsip 1, 2, 3, dan 6 di dalam ISPO. Jadi kriteria atau prinsip yang di dalam ISPO ini sudah disesuaikan dengan 12 tujuan yang ada di dalam SDGs 2030. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, kalau kami lihat bahwa ISPO ini saat ini memang sudah menjadi new ISPO sejak 2020 itu, dan sudah sangat memperhatikan daripada prinsip-prinsip apa yang ditetapkan di dalam SDGs. Kami langsung ke penutupan Bapak Ibu sekalian. ISPO saya pikir tidak jauh berbeda dengan sertifikasi yang dilakukan oleh negara-negara seperti Malaysia. Hampir sama sebenarnya. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami menghimbau ini, berharap dengan kondisi kesamaan atau kehampir samaan ini, kami menginginkan yang pertama, bagaimana membangun kerjasama. Untuk terus menguatkan pelaksanaan sistem sertifikasi dalam mewujudkan keberlanjutan atau sustainability, dan meningkatkan kontribusinya terhadap pencapaian SDGs 2030. Itu yang paling penting, saya pikir sebagai norma universal yang harus kita taati. Kemudian yang kedua, dalam upaya tersebut Indonesia berkomitmen memfasilitasi berbagai dialog dengan keterlibatan para pihak untuk membangun sinergi dalam penyelenggaraan sistem sertifikasi yang bekerja untuk tujuan keberlanjutan dan perkebunan kelapa sawit dan industri minyak sawit. Dan yang terakhir, yang ketiga, mewujudkan harapan bersama kiranya masyarakat global mendukung upaya pengembangan dan penerapan sistem sertifikasi dan peningkatan keberterimaan produk minyak sawit bersertifikat. Jadi kami tidak menutup pintu untuk rekan-rekan dari Malaysia atau dari negara lain pun misalnya, bahwa kita bisa melakukan kerjasama dalam hal apa? Mewujudkan kelapa sawit yang berkelanjutan ke depan. Demikian kami sampaikan, lebih kurang mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Siagian, for your insightful presentation and showcasing the importance of palm oil to the country and its plan to get them fully certified by 2020. Our fourth speaker is Dr. Khalid Ubaidin. He's a researcher at the University of Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. He's a strong supporter of palm oil, and his presentation is about contribution of vegetable oils towards sustainability development goals, a comparative analysis. Dr. Khalid, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and it's my pleasure to be here. Today I'm here to share with you the result of our study, which is focused on the contribution of the vegetable oil and the Sustainable Development Goals. Throughout of my slide, I'm going to share with you the current status of the SDG and why SDG is important, and the objective of our study, and the result of our study, and the conclusion and recommendation from our study. Okay, so unfortunately, as we can see here, the latest data from the United Nations show that we are far from achieving the SDG. Due to many reasons. One of them is the lack of understanding how the different activities is affecting the SDGs. Okay, this is including the vegetable oil. So that's one of the reasons why we did our study. Okay, I'm not going to explain this figure because I have noticed that, and maybe I'm the fifth one already we explain it, but for sure we can see from this figure that the vegetable oil production overall in the last few years were increased. Okay, so the price of the vegetable oil in the last few months we have seen increasing in it due to many reasons. One of them is the geopolitical situation, as mentioned even by a previous speaker, and due to the COVID-19 and its impact on the supply chain, and due to the climate change and other reasons. Okay, so this is very interesting to share it with you. I did some research to see how the research within the scientific community are targeted, whether they're covering the SDG or not. Unfortunately, as you can see here, the big word means that more research. I couldn't find that the major research that is covering the SDGs or they're covering the sustainability of vegetable oils, which means that most of the time the study with the vegetable oil, they're covering the engineering perspective and the chemical engineering. So which means that there is a lack of research in this area. Okay, so the purpose of our study was to evaluate and review the contribution of the vegetable oil on the SDGs based on the three pillars of sustainable development, which is, as usual, as we know, economic, social, and environment. This study was done by collaboration between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Republic of Indonesia and the Indonesian Auditor Network in 2021. As I said, the objective of our study is to compare and to determine the best way to compare the vegetable oil in terms of their contribution to the SDG, whereby we compare a total of 20 vegetable oil. I should emphasize and say that this study is not intended to prove that any one of the vegetable oil is better than the others. No, I don't want to say that, because we need all the vegetable oil. It's rather than to highlight the importance of all the vegetable oil to achieving the SDG. Okay, so definitely I'm not doing any type of comparison. Why the SDGs? Simply, the SDG is a global agenda. It's a driving development. It's a common language, and we need to speak it. It's address the risk. It's attract the capital, which is very important for everyone. It's focused on the purpose rather than distracting everything here and there. And it's employ attractiveness and increase the sustainability of the supply chain. So, how we did our study? First of all, we determined the related indicator based on expert of opinion and based on their opinion. Then we collect our data Then we did a normalization for our data. Then we submitted our data. We did a few times of forwarding between each others. Then we did a ranking. Then we did an analysis. Okay. So these are the SDGs that we have covered them. We covered no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, clean water, affordable and clean energy, decent work, reasonable consumption, climate action, and life on land. These are the vegetable oil that we have covered. As you can see, we cover a total of 20 vegetable oil, which is most of the produced vegetable oil around the world. Okay. Just quickly to show you, these are the indicators that we have used them. As you can see, they're covering the 3 pillars of sustainable development, and there are variety of the indicator. And definitely, they're covering the SDGs. Continuing, these are even the other indicators that we have used them. Okay. To ensure that our data is somehow acceptable by most of the, to ensure that our data is acceptable, we only intend to use the data provided by the FAO and other acceptable data which is acceptable within the scientific community. Our finding. Okay. So this is a very interesting figure. This figure shows the complexity of the relation between the different SDG targets. Okay. The red arrow shows that there is a synergy. The blue arrow, which is, you can see it here, is the trade-off impact. Any activity we do it has an impact on the SDG target, not only in the SDG, even by their target. So that's why we need to analyze those targets, and we need to analyze this activity, and we need to analyze how much the impact. And this impact is different from region, from the location it happened, and the amount it happened. Okay. So quickly to share with you our result. The highest contribution we found that in terms of SDG 1, which is focusing on no poverty, the highest contribution was oil palm, soybean, and groundnut, whereby the lowest contribution was kapok fruit, poppy seed, and hip seed. Okay. For SDG number 2, we find that the highest contribution came from rapeseed, oil palm, soybean, whereby the lowest contribution came from kapok fruit, melon seed, and tongue nut. In terms of SDG 6, the highest contribution came from oil palm, mustard seed, and hip seed, whereby the lowest contribution came from poppy seed, tongue nut, and kapok fruit. In terms of SDG 7, which is focusing on the affordable and clean energy, the highest contribution by far, I would say, that is the oil palm, especially with new innovation that's provided by the industry. Then we follow by the coconut, then jojoba seed. In terms of the lowest contribution coming from melon seed, shea nut, and cotton. In terms of the reasonable consumption and production, the highest contribution were from rapeseed, shea nut, and mustard seed, whereby the lowest one came from groundnut, sunflower, and cotton. In terms of SDG number 13, the highest contribution, which wasn't expected for us, or we were surprised, is coming from tongue nut, melon seed, and linseed, whereby the lowest contribution came from the sunflower, soybean, and groundnut. In terms of SDG 15, which is focused on the life on land, the highest contribution came from jojoba seed, tongue nut, and linseed. The lowest contribution came from sunflower, soybean, and groundnut. Okay. One thing which is bring our attention during our study that we found most of the standards, they didn't link their finding or the indicator to the SDG. Except the ISPO today was told that they have linked it to the SDGs, and the MSPO even today have been told that it was linked to the SDGs. Okay. So this slide, we're summarizing all our findings in terms of the contribution, the highest contribution to the SDG. As we can see, the contribution, most of the highest contribution coming from the top produced oil palm, and vegetable oil in the world, which makes sense, simply because the highest amount you produce is the highest contributor you had to expect. But again, as I said, that we were surprised in terms of the climate action, the tongue knot and melon seed, they have the highest contribution. Okay, so the overall contribution, the high impact we have it is from cotton, mustard seed, oil palm, rapeseed, whereby the lowest contribution was from castor seed, jojoba seed, cocoa fruit, and melon seed, and poppy seed. Okay, going back to the basic, which is the three pillars of sustainable development, which is the social, environment, and economy. We noticed that in terms of social, the soybean, as you can see here, especially from its impact on the food supply and the protein supply, it has the highest contribution, whereby, and at the same time, the oil palm, by supporting the smallholders and creating creating a high job, it has the highest contribution, and therefore it's supporting the social. In terms of the economy, the sunflower and the soybean were among the leaders. Definitely the oil palm was one of them, especially from its contribution to the GDP, as we said before. And the soybean had high impact in the contribution of the commodity, whereby in terms of the biodiesel, the palm oil was always the highest. In terms of the environment, palm oil, which is to the impact on the water footprint, it was the lowest, whereby the land use change per kilogram per palm oil was the lowest, or the better contribution. In terms of the greenhouse emission per kilogram, sunflower was the base. Okay, one thing which is, I think, was provided even by the previous lecture, by the previous speakers. We noticed there is a huge data gap in terms of the data gap related to the quality of education within the vegetable oil community, and the gender equality, the industry innovation, the reduced inequality, and SDG number 17, which is the partnership. There is a huge gap in this SDG, and we need to fill it. Okay. Keeping in mind this element, which is there are data bias, data gap, data validity, rapid change in the technology, as provided today by Sam Davy, and the complexity of the supply chain, the reliability of the data, completeness of the data, the high intensity of the data, geographical location of the data. Keeping in mind all these, whatever we presented today might be changed immediately, because anything happen to these parameters will immediately reflect our finding. Okay, I would like to conclude with the following. For sure, vegetable oil is supporting the SDGs. And for sure, it's had the ability to provide biodiesel and good protein and reducing the greenhouse emission and creating a job. We need all the vegetable oil, but definitely when we have higher impact, higher producing, it has a higher impact. As you could see, some of the vegetable oil show a higher contribution. It doesn't mean that this vegetable oil is better, as I said in the beginning of my slide. No, that means that maybe it's better in the other SDG, depending on the country situation. I would like to conclude by my recommendation. We are all of us in the same boat. The climate change is affecting us. Whether we like it or we didn't like it, it's there. So we had to fight it together. We need to continue improvement and learn from each other. And we need to build a holistic approach that depending on the 3 pillars of sustainable development and depending on the Agenda 2023. And we need to promote exclusivity between the sustainable development goals and the vegetable oil. And we need to share the capacity building, the technology transfer, the knowledge transfer through all the value chain of the vegetable oil. And we need to enhance the international cooperation and research and development on the sustainable development and the sustainable vegetable oil. We need to establish agreed standard for the vegetable oil that we can measure the contribution of the vegetable oil in a much better way. That standard should be in a regional and multinational level. Okay. So this is the first known alphabet which was found in my home country, Syria, Ugarit. Maybe the knowledge starts from there. I'm not sure. I have no idea. But for sure, the knowledge is cumulative. And I think that's why we are here, to learn and to share. I have heard many ideas today, and I think definitely this will add to my knowledge, and hoping I add to your knowledge. One thing which is I would like to conclude. These people, we need them and they need us. And we need to ensure whatever we are doing today, it should help them. We can't survive without them. And as always, my professor, Datuk Emeritus Professor Muhammad Awang, he tell me, Khalid, please go to the ground. So all of us, I think sometimes we need to go to the ground and see what's going on in the ground, then we make our decision. Finally, I would like to say that someone like me in UAE and many others like us, we are your ambassador. So please utilize us. We are there to help you to defend oil palm, and not only palm, the vegetable oil. And tell the people what's really is going on in the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid, for showcasing the importance of edible oils to sustainable development goals, and more important, for being a big palm supporter. Thank you. Our next presenter is none other than Mr. Joseph de Cruz. He likes to be called JD, and he is the CEO of RSPO. We are very fortunate to have him here today, and his presentation is titled Closing the Gaps on Common Sustainability Platforms. JD, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Dato, and good evening, colleagues. I know it's been a long day, and as we get towards the end of the day, it becomes increasingly difficult to absorb a lot of messages. So I'm going to try in this session to share a couple of ideas about the role that the RSPO plays in the complex ecosystem of organizations that work towards the sustainability of this sector. So, at the start of this session, you heard Pak Wijaksana talk about the SVOC Global Framework of Principles, a frame that's been set up through this intergovernmental process to define what sustainability means for producer countries in the oil palm sector. And as he pointed out, also hopefully to provide a frame that can be used as a reference point for other vegetable oil producing sectors as well. Now, the RSPO fits into this slightly differently, because as you know very well, the RSPO is a voluntary standard that complements existing market standards. I'm trying to fix the echo that's here. There we go. That complements existing mandatory standards through a mechanism that is, first of all, market and business driven, and secondly, very importantly, consensus and participatory based. And I'll come back to why this distinction matters in a minute. But critical to all our standards is that we all focus on ensuring the welfare of the growers and the workers in the sector, the people dimension of the SDGs. We all focus on environmental conservation, climate action, the planet dimension. And we all focus on ensuring a prosperous supply chain, the economic dimension of sustainability that ensures and underpins all the others. Now, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about what the RSPO has accomplished. And the data that I'm showing you here today is from our latest impact report, which we'll be launching this month. Over the course of the past year, we've seen production of RSPO certified palm oil go up by over 900,000 metric tons. And we've seen consumption also go up by over 914 metric tons, a year-on-year growth of 12%. Uptake of CSPO is high in most of the developed markets, over 80%, over 93%, in fact, in Europe, over 80% in North America, and we're also seeing strong growth in Latin America, China, and Malaysia. On the sustainability side, the work of the RSPO membership has resulted in the conservation of over 300,000 hectares of land, conserved HCV areas within our production landscapes, We've seen RSPO producer members have an average water footprint of less than 0.005 cubic meters per kilogram. And we're seeing cumulative GHG emissions avoided equivalent to almost 400,000 cars driven annually. Now, all of this says that the RSPO is doing a great job. Our members are making progress, we're increasing our standards, we're continuing to ensure that we produce palm oil in the most sustainable way possible. And very important, not to forget, that the RSPO membership also works to ensure that the support for sustainability echoes across the entire supply chain. Our shared responsibility standards, our supply chain standards ensure that all members of the supply chain contribute to the sustainability of our production. So if this is the case, then what's the problem? Well, the problem is, colleagues, that the progress we are making through our RSPO membership is not going to be sufficient in of itself to transform the industry. We are at this point roughly 19.8% of the global market. Our 5,400 plus members represent some of the largest companies, but not the entire sector. And as RSPO, we are very conscious of the fact that if we are to have a sustainable impact on the entire sector, particularly in a way that helps to shift perception of oil palm and helps to shift acceptance of this product in the market, then we need to ensure that what we do works with and complements existing national schemes, national platforms to work collectively towards a common goal. So how do we see the RSPO's role in this complementarity? And I would phrase it in two different ways. First of all, by virtue of being a business and market-led mechanism that is voluntary, the RSPO has been for a long time the mechanism through which the industry has been able to figure out what sustainability means and how to accomplish it. A voluntary system that represents a subset of the industry, the ones who are most committed perhaps to sustainability and have the resources and capacity to be able to push the boundaries, is the ideal space in which we innovate and think through how we accomplish the kind of sustainability standards the industry needs. This was the case for many years in the past. It will continue to be the case, I believe, in the future as we tackle many of the emerging challenges around sustainability, higher climate ambition, more rigorous labor standards, particularly dealing with issues like the water footprint. So our first role as RSPO, I believe, is to continue to be the innovation space within which we collectively figure out how we advance sustainability in the sector. And this is complementary to the national systems that Dr. Daud and Pak Baginda talked about, because it is very difficult in a mandatory national standard to establish standards without some level of confidence that these are achievable. The RSPO model, the RSPO experience, gives that confidence to national standards to say, yes, if 20% of the industry can accomplish these standards, then we can certainly aspire to have the rest of the industry in our country move in the same direction. So we see that complementarity between the innovation work, the frontier work the RSPO is capable of doing, and the ability of national standards to lift and transform an entire sector as being the critical way in which the entire industry can be transformed collectively. Because the RSPO is never going to be 100% of the industry. Just by definition, a voluntary market-led standard can never aspire to be that. But we can aspire to be the testing ground that allows our national standards to set rigorous standards for industries that are mandatory. And secondly, of course, by virtue of being a voluntary global standard, the RSPO becomes a platform through which people in the downstream side, particularly those further downstream in developed markets, can demonstrate their commitment and their responsibility for sustainability. Coming back to our shared responsibility guidelines. So from the RSPO side, we believe that it is this combination of voluntary efforts through a platform like the RSPO and rigorous standards set by governments through mandatory national schemes that will ultimately move the industry in the producer countries forward towards the kind of sustainability standards that we aspire to. And we believe that our commitment from our downstream members through shared responsibility to also commit to first and foremost buying, increasing uptake, but also promoting and advocating for sustainable oil palm will be the element that also brings the downstream side along with us as we make this transition. So that combination, the work done by CPOPC to set a global framework, the work done by the national standards like MSPO and ISPO, the very important work done by our academic colleagues like Dr. Khalid, who are demonstrating the relevance of sustainable oil palm to the SDGs and to global goals, complemented by the voluntary work done by our members to be able to innovate, to think through how to raise standards over time, we believe will be the combination of ingredients through which this industry can actually demonstrate its leading role in sustainability. Thank you for your time, Dato. I hope that was not more than 10 minutes.
Oh,
and
thank
looking
you.
forward to the conversation.
Oh, thank you, JD, for highlighting RSPO attainment and reinforcing the need for alignment of the different sustainability certification standards available currently, and especially for keeping in time. Our penultimate speaker is Dr. Suresh Motwani, Program Head, Vegetable Oil of Solidaridad Asia. In reading his profile, he is a specialist in sustainable supply chain development across various global agro-commodities, especially edible oil. His presentation today is very interesting. It's titled, "The Secret Ingredient of Sustainable Palm Oil is Smallholders Farmers." Let's hear the secret.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening. So I am taking the base of my presentation from the last session moderator, where he asked about how are the major challenges to maintain the sustainable supply chain of the vegetables oil. Even we know life is all about the challenges. To keep the attention from the all audience in such a evening hours after the long day is quite a challenge. But when we talk about the sustainable supply chain of the vegetable oils, I see the inclusion of the small holders. This is the real challenge. Challenge is the different type of challenges are there. Some challenges are voluntary. We speak about the voluntary challenges in the last speakers. Then some challenges are the mandatory, some are the options. I count these smallholders to include the smallholders in sustainable supply chain. We should consider this is the mandatory challenge for all of us. And this is the base of my presentations. Through this, some of the slides, I am going to be prove how the smallholders should be mandatory to be included in the sustainable supply chain. Yeah. So you can see it's not only about the edible oil, veg oil, as a whole, as a agriculture, more than 600,000 farmers, smallholder farmers are linked with the food security agenda, and more than 1/3 of the food production taken care by the smallholders. So when we talk about especially the vegetables oil, we know the vegetables oil is the largest trade commodities. Out of all agriculture commodities, vegetables oil contribute more than 40% of the total trade in the global. We have the different type of the vegetables oil. I will more focus on the palm oil agenda, where we have some initiatives, especially for the smallholders. But these 8 or 9 vegetables are the most important. It supplies more than 97-8% of the total veg oil requirement globally. You can see the foreseen demand for the veg oil. We already discussed in the many sessions, and all speakers talk about how the vegetables oil requirement is continually growing. And for growing demand, the palm oil is one of the special important commodity we need to be discussed about the smallholder context. So just a few slides from my organizations. Maybe some of the people already know about the Solidaridad being a rich experience organization last 50 years. So I see we are in the position to be justified our approaches, why we are talking about the smallholders are more important for the sustainable supply chain. We work on the different supply chain in the global market, but the oil palm is one of the important commodity. We also work on the soybean to link with our vegetables oil agenda, and we also have some rapeseed mustard program in India. So as organizations, we are known to be discuss the sustainability agenda globally through different approaches. We were the part of the fair trade movement. We were the part of the voluntary standards like RSPO we discussed, and we now initiated the different discussions or the different talking to the, we need the national framework first to be address the global agenda. We need to be discuss the local, national, regional requirement to be inbuilt with the global agenda. It's not going to be that we create the global agenda and the nation need to be follow. Nation, regions need to be create the agenda, what is the requirement based on their resources, food security requirement, their population requirement, and this combined going to be prepare the global agenda. This is the approach we are working on. So the smallholder, the secret ingredient of sustainable palm oil, this is not as secret actually. This is the well-known fund issues. Basically, smallholders are the more important vulnerable sections where we need to be create the support system to be adopt the all sustainability norms. It's not only about the palm oil I'm talking about, but the overall as a edible oil scenario, the agriculture, different crops, the smallholder, more than 70% of the smallholders are directly linked with the agriculture commodities production systems. And different type of the approaches, including the national standards, the global standards, the voluntary standards, the optional standards, the mandatory standards, we really find the missing link where we need to be include the all smallholders in this system. We have some work continuously with the different governments in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the different part of the Asia also. But still we find there is some strong gap we need to be highlight. So we prepare this palm oil barometer for the smallholders. This is being just launched last month. So through this barometer, we are trying to be prepare the community, the different agenda we need to be addressed to be include the smallholders in the overall integrated sustainable supply chain of the veg oil. Primarily, these three indicators we include in our studies where we are discussing the income and the value distribution. We find out how the corporate accountability working on the smallholders value chain and the participation in decision making. On these three levels, we have the different findings, and these findings are clearly mentioned. Smallholders somehow is neglected on the entire value chain where when we talk about the profit-making systems, where the palm oil we all believe is the highest profit-making commodities trading in globally, where the smallholders getting 0% as a part of the income in compared to the what they are getting the other chain stakeholders like the processor, refiners, and the other value addition commodities. And the second part about the corporate accountability, no doubt, some of the example could be there where the lot of the businesses can directly work with the smallholders, they support the smallholder production systems, but we find is not the significant, still now, okay, the businesses are there to be support on the these smallholders in the value chain. We really need to be include and discuss and prepare and adopt the mechanism of how we are going to be include these all smallholders in the sustainable supply chain. And third one was the decision making. We are aware there are the different type of the challenges, I can say the standards, but hardly any such type of challenges or the standards or the schemes count smallholder as the base of the pyramid, where these type of schemes or the standards or the challenges going to be discussed. They should be base of the smallholders where we initiate the discussions. This is the primarily need we find out this barometers. And this basically, as organizations, we are trying to be create the such type of environment where the smallholders should be counted as a major part of these all discussions when we discuss to be certified for the particular standard, for the particular requirement, for the special requirement from the any country or the any company or the any geography. We should count to be first support the smallholders to be built, to be linked, to be produced in the better way by providing the different type of the subsidies, better type of the schemes, better type of the link, better type of the association through these all value-added stakeholders, the governments, the businesses, the brands, and all value-added companies. They should provide the benefit to the smallholders to support them on the different levels. Here we classified the different approaches where the industry or the policy makers can work. We should continue to be organize these type of discussions. I know within the 10 minutes I am not going to be justify the all approaches, but we all are here aware about the all agenda. I am here to be just to be emphasize the smallholder is the key challenge where we are need to be address these issues. Being a government, being a policymaker, being an industry, we need to be support on the different levels by providing the fair income, fair price to their produce. We can count them when form any policy. We can adopt their problems by providing the solutions. We should include them in the different sustainability norms where they need any type of support, we should be ready to provide them. And we all aware when we talk about the palm oil, this palm oil value chain is highly profitable. We have the sufficient records available. But from this highest profit making supply chain, we need to be considered smallholder is one of the prime component to be continue with the sustainable growth. When we talk about the smallholders, then we are not going to talk only about the production of the palm oil. We are talking about the sustainable development goals. When we work with the smallholders, the automatically around 13 to 14 the sustainable development goal going to be achieved. We can enhance their livelihood. We can enhance the social security. We can increase their well-being by providing this type of support. So this palm oil is not going to be matched with our requirement, the edible oil requirement globally, but it's also directly connected with the sustainable development goal and with the community. So these barometers can be downloaded from the Solidarity website. I must say, this is not the global closing remark. This is the initiating remark I am going to paste. Change that matters. Let's work for the smallholders with our best efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh, for emphasizing the need and importance of smallholders in the whole sustainable value chain. Our last and final speaker for this session is Mr. Unitan, founder of a tech company and developer of a blockchain technology, specially to cater for edible oil traceability. He shall be presenting a paper titled Meeting New Global Sustainability Requirements for Palm Oil Using Blockchain Technology. Mr. Unitan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Najib. Very good evening to all of you, distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to thank the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation on blockchain technology. If I could have my slides up, please. My fellow tech guys at the back. I know, it's not. All right. So, it is indeed a challenge to be the last speaker, as all of you know. So I stand between you, food and drink. I don't know what you guys are imagining, but I'd say my presentation is really going to be food for thought, because the new global regulations around sustainability would definitely need the use of a technology like blockchain. You have heard wonderful presentations over the course of today, including from everybody involved in sustainability, various certification systems, RSPO, MSPO, ISPO, the global framework that CPOPC is recommending. But despite starting almost 14 years ago with the initiative from RSPO, we as an industry are still being accused of greenwashing. And that is because there is lack of granular data, there is no end-to-end visibility and transparency. What is being presented is more of an inferred evidence than real-time data. And I'm also glad to be the last speaker because I can relate to all the issues that have been spoken about, particularly smallholders. It is the non-inclusiveness of smallholders and the difficulty to bring them on board the sustainability platform that indeed is the key challenge. There needs to be incentives. I'm glad Solidaridad presented that. The basic producers, the ones who are the most marginalized, need to be incentivized. And when you talk about digitization, among most people, our industry is very conservative, you will find that many of them are not so digitally savvy. And most of us operate in silos, and therefore there is no collaboration. If you look from a technology perspective, traditional supply chain management has got issues. When you manage supply chains in a silo, it is usually very high cost. There is lack of collaboration. There are doubts around security and privacy. Most of our industry is still used to manual processes which are rather inefficient. There is difficulty in exchanging data, even with large companies working on ERP systems. And there is, of course, lack of trust. So these are the kind of issues that you grapple with when you're trying to build a technology to address these gaps that exist and then find a technological solution to solve it. So as we speak, what is the urgency? Now, the developed world is taking the lead in terms of imposing legislation. The US FDA says from 2023, it is not going to allow import of food products without full traceability. The European Union's law on farm-to-fork kind of traceability, on deforestation, and UK after Brexit is all pointing towards the direction that we need end-to-end traceability. And now the EU has identified these 6 commodities in which oil palm is featured. You will see between oil palm and soybean, the 2 biggest vegetable oils are featured in this new legislation, demanding that we need to provide solid proof that our supply chain is not causing deforestation. So this is the kind of environment in which one needs to find a technological solution. I don't need to tell the audience here, constantly we are under attack, particularly palm oil. About 75% of palm is used in food, and every day we have these kind of images being featured in information to consumers and campaign against palm. Some years ago we started fuel, and these are the kind of images that we are seeing where the media campaign is against palm oil. So broadly, let us for a moment forget palm. Let's look at supply chain for any industry. Why does supply chain traceability matter? Just to give you some statistics, today over $500 billion worth of trade happens because of counterfeit. 56% of food brands at least have one recall, costing them anywhere between $80 to $100 million per product recall. The new generation of our world, the millennials, they are willing to pay, more than 80% of them are willing to pay for traceable products. 15% of food that is sold is either counterfeit or unsafe. Or over 400,000 people die every year because of food safety issues. Now these are not just relevant to palm oil or vegetable oils. These are relevant to everything that happens around supply chain. Therefore, when you look at a technological solution, one way of approaching this is to look at a connected supply chain. How do you connect one end of the supply chain all the way till the end? And there are 5 compelling reasons why you need traceability. 1, all the pressures from regulatory institutions. 2nd, food safety. When you monitor everything that happens within your supply chain, you also address food safety. You can identify and control counterfeits at every stage of the supply chain. Consumer groups around the world are demanding for this kind of, there are many which are either food safety related or related to religious norms that you need to meet, whether it is halal, kosher, or otherwise. And most importantly, you need to build trust with your customers. You need to improve your brand value. And one way of doing this is to get the entire supply chain connected. And when I mean connected, using technology. So what is required? We think that one way of approaching this problem is to use a blockchain network. A network that connects everybody from small farmers all the way to large end users and retailers, involving even others who are involved like banks and financial institutions. Now, you might say, how do you do this with technology? Everybody needs data privacy. So the architecture of a blockchain network that can do and yet maintain data privacy is each company can download the app or work on the web-based solution, but this is all interconnected. And the only data that is shared is what you share today, but the algorithm strings together the traceability information. So it's a three-step process. You need to have consensus among all stakeholders. You need to collaborate among everybody else. And most importantly, you need to digitize. You need to capture supply chain activity at every stage. Then only that data gets converted into valuable information for sustainability credentials. So I would say traceability alone is not enough. You need to know exactly what is happening on the field. What is a smallholder doing? What is a harvester doing? A checker, a bin operator, a truck operator, a mill weighbridge clerk, or a refiner or an oleo producer before it goes to the end. So when you build a digital transformation tool that can help you not only track but also get product transformation done, it improves productivity and yield. Everyone should win, and that is the only way disruptive technologies can work. And that can only happen when all stakeholders win. And rightly enough, the blockchain technology allows smallholders to be at the center of the ecosystem, and connecting them with all of the supply chain using simple mobile apps helps them to get their work done digitally. E-work, e-learning, e-vision, all of this is possible. Similarly, plantations can also get the benefit of monitoring activities and meeting sustainability. Same with mills, the same with refiners and oleos. What actually digital transformation does is it helps you get a much higher return on investment, because the more data you look at it, the more you can control your business. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, legislations around the world are tightening the screws on traceability and sustainability requires. Blockchain technology is one such solution, and we believe it is the best one that can help you get a sustainability authentication tool. And digital transformation is the one way where you can bring everybody, including smallholders, to accept a platform that benefits everybody in the value chain. On that note, I sincerely thank you for your attention. Om Shanti, Shanti Om.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. You may remain on stage. Can you take your seat? Can I also invite the rest of the other speakers to go on stage for the Q&A session? We'll try to keep it short because it's already 5:40. So I think we'll keep the Q&A maybe 3-4 questions. Pak Wishak. Okay, without much ado, I'll pose the first question. The first question is to Mr. JD. I wouldn't pose that question first. This question is quite a tricky question, JD. With the goalposts and PNC of RSPO ever changing, what is RSPO's strategy or plan to attract growers to remain on board with RSPO?
Thank you, Dato. It's not actually a tricky question if you frame it correctly. Colleagues, let me be very frank here. Whether we like it or not, the challenge to this industry of demonstrating sustainability is something that's not going away. All right? We have to be able to demonstrate that we are meeting the expectations not of regulators, not of critics or NGOs, but that we're meeting the expectations of our consumers, of the public, of young people, of our children, who are all expecting that this industry continues to demonstrate that it is the best possible solution for sustainable production of vegetable oil. And in that context, yes, the RSPO continues to look at our standards, review them, revise them, improve them over time. But remember, very importantly, this is not a standard that's imposed by people in the Secretariat, least of all by me. This is the collective process by which the members of RSPO come together, discuss, argue, cry, moan, complain, but ultimately agree on what we collectively believe our aspiration for sustainability should be. And that's exactly how that process has been running for the last 18 years. We are in the middle of our current PNC review process right now. This time around, our emphasis has very much been on ensuring that the standards we set are implementable and auditable, that they're robust. But even in that context, we are seeing very intense discussions about what we need to do to respond to climate change, what we need to do to respond to the demands for this industry to demonstrate leadership on social standards, on labor standards, and others. The RSPO standards are a reflection of the aspiration of the industry. And in that context, I certainly hope and expect that the aspiration of the industry will be to continuously challenge ourselves to get better over time. Thanks, Adol.
Okay, thank you, JD, for the clarification. The next question is Dato' Daud. Dato' Daud, the upcoming politician. While Malaysia has attained a high level of MSPO certification among the growers, would they, especially the smallholders, be able to maintain it, especially when support from the government is no more there? Please elaborate.
Thank you, Dato'. Ladies and gentlemen, as far as Malaysia is concerned, and the dedicated focus in empowering small enterprise is real, and I think the way forward is giving them what basically is priority, and with the concept of, for example, Keluarga Malaysia, no one should be left behind. And in my humble view, being a native of Bornean part of Sabah and Sarawak, there is no other option except MSPO. So because it is a national standards, therefore the government, whichever political party is leading the country, the priority in assisting them in whatever they require within the legislation is real, and it has been intensified. And I think Yunatan pointed a very valid point, of which motivation is the key to those who have not been reached out. And I'm so glad that in our budget 2023, a dedicated funding towards that agenda is already on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Daud. Now, one from Slido. This is from Rosdiana Suharto. This is for Dr. Wichak Sana. What is global framework for? For standard requirement or for guidance?
Thank you very much, Bu Rosdiana. I think this is a very important question that is very important and everybody should know. So first of all, the platform, the G20 SVOC, is a guidance, a reference. So this is very important that show there's a minimum requirements of principles that should be there in every platform of certificate and sustainability. So this also can be also expand to the new national certification, say like the member of SVOC for now. But we hope that the near future, this not only palm oil can be used as reference, but also other vegetable oils. And also I believe that this platform is like a living document, so can be continuously improved. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Wichak. I think this is the last question. Nothing is coming up from Slido. This is coming up from me now. This is for Pak Segian. Pak. Not from there, Pak. Not from there, from me. ISPO is to be made mandatory by 2025 with a low percentage of certification, especially among smallholders. How confident are you that Indonesia will attain 100% status by then?
Baik, mungkin saya bisa jawab ya. Memang kita harus mencari strategi nih, strategi untuk mencapai 2025 itu. Untuk perusahaan swasta dan perusahaan negara, mungkin kita masih yakin dengan pencapaian 2025. Tetapi untuk yang smallholder, yang pekebun ini, kita harus mencari satu strategi. Yang pertama, mungkin kita bisa menerapkan tidak lagi per smallholder, luasan yang smallholder, tapi kita membuat perkawasan. Memang kita harus membutuhkan internal control system yang lebih ketat untuk itu, supaya kita bisa melakukan dia per kawasan, tidak lagi per satu smallholder lainnya. Kemudian yang kedua, kesulitan terhadap dana atau biaya yang akan diminta untuk pembiayaan daripada sertifikasi itu kita bisa peroleh dari luar anggaran yang ada di negara. CSR ataupun misalnya dari badan pengelola sawit kita. Itu kira-kira yang strategi yang bisa kita buat dalam waktu yang dekat ini. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Pak Segian. Ibu Mus is here to give you the support on the fund. Thank you, Bu Mus. Last question. Datuk Daud ni very popular. Given the worker shortage in palm oil plantation has been a major social labor issue, what real actionable measures does the Malaysian government has in place? This is the last question.
Nyata sekali, our neighbor is very conducive neighbor. And I think Malaysia is dynamic. The immediate concerted effort is between adopting mechanization dan juga motivating Malaysian company to use 100% Malaysian employees. Dari sudut legislation, tidak mungkin if there is no motivation mengenai wages atau gajinya, karyawan-karyawan daripada Sumatera, Lombok, Kalimantan mau pergi kerja di Malaysia sebagai contoh. But saya suka berdiskusi barang yang juga sulit tapi praktikal dan juga based on humanitarian ground. Di Malaysia rakan kita daripada negara Filipina sebagai contoh, Thailand, South Thailand dan juga Indonesia. Kenapa kita tidak melalui platform ASEAN sebagai contoh? Sama-sama kita memikul tanggungjawab, common responsibility, tetapi based on humanitarian. Sebagai contoh, sesiapa saja yang mau bekerja di ladang XYZ, as long as dia mau tinggal di ladang in situ, insya-Allah kalau ada gajinya yang munasabah, tidak mungkin bacok boleh tinggal di Malaysia, di renew work pass-nya. Saya rasa 5 kali Pak, kalau 5 kali 5, 25 tahun. So that is testimoni yang Malaysia negara employer yang baik. Tetapi negara Indonesia juga oleh kekangan lahang yang besar, perlu juga warga negaranya stay put. Tetapi ingat, manusia ada behavior. Jadi di mana saja ada peluang, dia akan ke sana. Jadi pada hemat kami, social impact untuk memenuhi kekangan karyawan bukan saja di Malaysia, I think the world over. So sementara waktu begitu tok, saya rasa
Okay, thank you.
cukup. Terima
Thank you,
kasih.
Dr. Daud. With that last answer, I have to close this session with a word of thanks to the speakers and to the audience for participating and for still being the hall till now. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, our moderator, Datuk Muhammad Nagib, for a delightful and such a wonderful final session. Kindly remain on the stage to all of our speakers. Please stay on the stage. And also, Datuk, our moderator, please stay on the stage. And may we invite Deputy Minister for Food and Agribusiness of the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Madam Dr. Musdalifah Mahmud, to kindly present the tokens of appreciations to our moderator and all of the entire line of speakers for the final session today. The first one will be presented to our delightful moderator, Datuk Muhammad Nagib from CPOPC. We thank you very much for moderating the session. And next to Mr. Wicaksana Darmo Sarkoro, also from CPOPC Indonesia, and next to Datuk Daud Ahmad Zin from Malaysian Palm Oil Certification Council, and then to Mr. Baginda Siagian. Thank you very much indeed. And then the next tokens to Mr. Khalid Obaidin from the United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much, sir, for your kind participation. And next to Mr. Joseph De Cruz from the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oils. And next to Mr. Suresh Modwani from Solidaridad Asia. And last but definitely not least to Mr. U.R. Unithand from Dibist PTE Limited. And now a group photo, please. As we gather front and center for the final group photo on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. And the final session, we love palm oil. We love vegetable oils. A sign of love, ladies and gentlemen. This is the line of the final speakers and moderator for the final sessions of our conference. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Madam, may we invite you to the podium for the concluding remarks, and as the rest of the gentlemen kindly return to your seats. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the concluding remarks of our conference today, please welcome once again Madam Musdalifah Mahmud, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I think for this last session, I would like to asking favor from all of you here in this room. 4 times of claps. First, the claps for our, MC, for your high appreciation to you, yeah, Pak. Very nice, handsome and a good voice. Yeah, I like it. And the second part is, I need your claps to all of us here who keep stay in this room because we stay. Why? Because 19 speakers deliver the speech is very excellent. Different view and accommodate many things and how to make our view of the vegetable oil open, and also I hope this will deliver fairness and respectful to all vegetable oil who contribute to the world. Thank you to our 19 speakers and to all of us, because the challenge to go out is very big actually, because compared with the beautiful sunset beach in this time, but we keep staying here because to appreciate to this event, Sustainable Vegetable Oil Conference. I need your claps to all of us here. Thank you to keep stay in this room to have this very excellent conference. That's why we need your to appreciate to the organizing committee, CPOPC, BPDP, and also GAPKI, who organized this beautiful, I think, benefit conference, Sustainable Vegetable Oil Conference. And also I need your claps also, because we have the person who initiated this conference, actually Professor Paganini. We give, thank you very much, Professor Paganini, to have this very good idea on to have this Sustainable Vegetable Oil Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I would let this in this today conference, because I have to read this closing remarks from the organizing committee. They just give me the duty, because I will attend here. I have to speak, yeah. Don't forget the honorable. No, just kidding. Today conference, we have learned from the presentation of 19 excellent speakers from leading global vegetable oil stakeholders. The speakers represent various parties, including the agriculture and commodity ministers of the main producing countries, representative of international organizations, and researchers who provide a broad view of how vegetable oils can answer the challenges of global issues such as food security and sustainable energy. I forget to mention that we have together with us here, Excellency Minister Papua New Guinea, who attend from the first we opened the vegetable oil conference until we close now. We give applause. Thank you very much, Excellency, Honorable Minister from Papua New Guinea. We need you to continue this vegetable oil conference. Yeah, I hope we can help for the second conference to meet again with all of us here, stakeholders, because I believe this conference is not enough. We need more. We need to talk more keen, more deeply, and we need to have solution to have that all vegetable oils contribute in the same term that contribute for food security in the global market. Today, we have talked about vegetable oils in the age uncertainty, navigating vegetable oil dynamics, and enhancing sustainable supply chains. And there are some notes that we need to highlight. Vegetable oils are one of the most important key items in diet around the world, essential of fats, nutrients, and cooking. And recent global supply shortage has sparked emerging food security issue, and the fallout of the war in Ukraine is adding to the surging prices, increasing vulnerability to the people worldwide. Global demand for vegetable oil has continued to be driven by, amongst other, population growth with the current geopolitical situation and also climate change. Vegetable oil supply chains have proven to be resilient in face the emergencies that occurred the last year. World Bank estimates that for each 1 percentage point increase in food prices, 10 million people are thrown into extreme poverty worldwide. UN World Food Program stated that skyrocketing food prices may cause 323 million people globally to become acutely food insecure or at high risk. A call for urgent coordinated action on food security has been announced by multilateral organizations including the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and relevant United Nations agencies, ranging from provision or emergency food supplies, financial support, increased agriculture production, and open trade. Group of 20 or G20 has been a strategic multilateral platform to address issues of global significance for international economic cooperation. In the area of agriculture development, a number of recurring topics have been deliberated to promote sustainable global trading and responsible agricultural supply chains to ensure a resilient food system. G20 meeting will convene vegetable oils producers and exporters that will be an opportunity moment to discuss and address the current issues of global security. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we do hope that this conference has also managed to address the global vegetable oil supply chain challenges and provide the foundation for policy formulation. We also hope that all of us can share what we have learned today to our colleagues as well as society, so that hand in hand we can work together to formulate innovations and breakthrough to achieve what will we call as a sustainable development of global vegetable oils. And I think we should have scheduled for the second vegetable oil conference. Once again, thank you very much for all of your kind attention, participation, and support. This is the end of our conference today, but not the end of our relationship and cooperation. I will share my number, especially for you. No, just kidding. Just kidding. To continue our relationship. And last but not least, hope you enjoy the beauty and hospitality of Bali. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. From the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Another round of applause for Madam Dr. Musdalifah Mahmud. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for concluding the event for us today. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our G20 Sustainable Vegetable Oils Conference here in Bali, Indonesia. Tonight, we are extending invitation to all of you. Do join us for a wonderful dinner right here in this ballroom starting at 7:30 p.m. We promise you delicious food from Bali and great music and wonderful performances from Bali, Indonesia. And at the end here, we would like to express our profound gratitude for your enthusiasms and participations. My name is Rahmat Idris. This has been a delight and a privilege. Thank you very much, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Our crew will be cleaning up and rearranging the rooms, so please don't forget any of your belongings behind. Once again, Be mindful of your personal properties as the room will be cleaned up and rearranged. Thank you.